I did.
No.
No, I
Use
know.
an electric razor. I'm going to just say, why in the world would somebody not use an electric razor in this day and age?
Real men don't use electric razors.
I can just
Is that what it is?
I can just see Ack like in his bathroom with one of those big leather things, sharpening up the straight.
Oh, just stop there. Just stop there. That's all you have to do. So you got it. You nailed it. If you go any further, you're going to miss it.
I don't understand.
One of those big leather things sharpening. Yeah, that's it. No, I have. I'm not a masochist. I use regular. Let me fix this. Sorry, regular razors. But I don't find electric razors work. I mean, I recently got to try out like the best one ever made, like this incredible electric razor that's just like my father-in-law uses. He's like, oh, you gotta try this, and I don't know. I don't have.
When I was just starting to shave in my late teens, my father had one of those those Norelcos with the 3 heads.
Yep.
And I swear to God, I got the worst irritation and rash from that thing because my skin was just not accustomed to the electric razor. So I've never used electric razors ever. I've always used regular.
But here's the thing. They may not be the smoothest, and I don't mind having like a smidge of stubble or if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't have those accidents anymore. With my skin, I would always...
Yeah, but you see you guys have beards, like you actually have beards, so that's a different thing. Like, if you don't have beards...
Even pre-beard...
Yeah.
Once you get a bleeder, it never happens at a good time. It's always like 3 minutes before you have to be somewhere.
Say that again. No, you're right. But no, that's why you always need one of those I have Steptic pencils. Those are torture devices, but they work.
They do. We have them for our dogs because when we cut their nails.
Oh my God, that must hurt a dog. But no, you're right. This is what you got to use. I mean, just keep them.
Styptic powder or Styptic pencil, either way.
Yeah. They are something though. They are really something. Yeah. I know. I got a text message from our buddy at the CBC wondering why Russ the chicken is following him too. I had to explain to him what was going on here. We had no control over the chicken.
Yeah, he took like 2 days to follow me. I mean, I created the guy, and he's taken 2 days to follow me. Like he's already got an attitude.
Yeah, well, there you go. You created him. He's gonna be all. He's his own chicken. He said that.
He is.
All right, but let's get started. We got a lot of fun things to talk about today.
We got lots of stuff to talk about. Jeez.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. The 19th of April. It's only Tuesday. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, April 19th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to talk to you about what's going on in hockey and to explain to you simple things like there are idiots in every fan base, not just Philadelphia, okay? And yes, there are idiots in Philadelphia, but they're not just in Philadelphia, okay? And if these things were given out at any arena, this would have happened, and I'm 100% sure of that. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have happened in Nashville, but most places, yeah, most places this. And to the Flyers, you feel bad about this because the Flyers have gone through a lot lately, and the Flyers came out and if you're not following along, we're talking about, of course, about Braceletgate, which is the latest thing that's happening in Philadelphia, and the fact that we talked about before the game actually last night. Russ and I were looking at the bracelets, and I wonder what the heck these things were on everybody's seats. And you were right; they turned them on ahead of time.
Yep.
I first saw this technology at a Taylor Swift concert at Citizens Bank. Taylor Swift, has these bracelets. They are, and there's a lot of questions to what they are. They weren't part of the Ed Snyder tribute. They weren't. This was planned.
The introduction. It was the intro.
Right. This was planned a long, long time ago. And if you look on my Instagram or my Twitter, I think I even have some video of how they look and and they're cool. They're synchronized, via near field Bluetooth.
I find it. People can look on Vine.
Right, near field Bluetooth technology, and they're synchronized to the music, and they do really look cool. I mean, especially from where I videotaped it and tweeted it out, and it looked really good. And of course, these are things that can be thrown, and anything that can be thrown. This isn't exactly Bat Day at Veterans Stadium, but this is something that this is not. I mean, these things, they're not that dangerous. But I think we have them. My daughter kept hers from Taylor Swift concert. I didn't see any last night, but it's a shame it took away from a lot, of course, of an otherwise fantastic game that people would love to have witnessed. I'm just kidding.
What?
It was a fantastic game for about 10 minutes. You know, it was really a really good game, pretty good game for the first 10 minutes, and then it lost a lot of its hoopla, and because the Capitals are that good, and the Capitals are good, and their power play is crazy good, and you know, if you have referees that are going to call the game, I'm not blaming the referees at all, but you know, this is the kind of thing. The only chance the Flyers have are referees that are going to let things go. You know, like referees let things go for both sides, because 5-on-5 the Flyers have been okay, but when you get to the power play, the Caps have probably the best power play in the world, and right now the Flyers have easily the worst. So
yeah,
you're looking at, you know, you might as well just, you know, decline the penalty and give them a goal so you have more time to get back into the game. You know, it really, to me, that's where they're at, because you know, you might as well just let them score. Go ahead, shoot it in the net. Well, that way we have 2 more minutes to get back into the game, because all that's happening is you're wasting time waiting for the Caps to score. They really, even in the power play right at the end of the first period, the Caps just had 6 or 7 glorious chances, and you know, and could have ended any time. I mean, you're talking about, you know, the Flyers on one side have Voracek waiting for the one-timer, you know, and the Caps have Ovechkin, and Voracek has 1 goal all year, and Ovechkin has 50 goals, and 20 of them are on the power play. So, you know, when all said and done, it's a big difference there. And Backstrom, you know, it's more the Flyers. Like I said, I still don't understand the Flyers power play not being changed up. I guess they're just not going to change the power play. I don't understand it at all. It's become so predictable, because there really is nothing on the right side. I was talking about Phil Meltzer with it last night. It really comes down to, you've got Giroux and Gaspar, who tend to be too close together in this. You know, Giroux's on the half boards. You know, my favorite expression, the half boards, and Gaspar is back at the point. Both on the left, and you know, Gaspar should be in the center, but tends to drift more towards Giroux in the left. If Simmons on the left again and down by the net, and you have Shen in the middle of the net in the slot, and then you have Voracek on the right. So there's no right point person on the Flyers power play, and really it's so easy. All you have to do is shut down that left side, because Voracek's been ineffective. And yesterday, when they got a couple passes through to him, he passed those shots off. So I didn't understand that either. So it's frustrating for Flyers fans, and you know, but you know, the last thing I'll say about the bracelet thing is it really is, like, I mean, it is funny to live in Philadelphia, and you've seen it, Russ, and just the whole idea that the Flyers or Philadelphia sports fans are the worst fans on the planet, and this is like something they
look, Yankee fans are known for the same thing. I've seen Met fans do it. Like, it's happened everywhere. It has
would have happened anywhere. I'm telling you, it would be no different if it was in Washington, and the thing was going the same way. Remember, there was a very emotional evening, and the Flyers did the right thing. They came out and they just put an apologetic statement out there.
Wait a second. Before Russ just says, let me just say this. We were talking about this last week.
Right.
Panthers, the idiotic Panthers fans throwing the rats out on the ice with 9 seconds left to go. So
apparently, it's different if you throw things if you're happy. That's right.
I know, but it's the collective stupidity and psychosis of any fan base to react that way. So I'm not going to slag Philadelphia fans because they were displeased with what was going on in the game, just because I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to paint them with the same brush that I do Florida Panthers fans. Throw the damn rat after the whistle, after the game is over with. Don't throw it on and give your team a penalty.
The one thing I'll say is this is like the one thing that's really bothering me, and I actually was watching something and I tweeted it, and they changed their tune. I texted a friend of mine who was on the air earlier. Like, there is this thing going on. There's this belief that this was like the Ed Snyder commemorative bracelets that people were throwing at this, and that's just not the case. That's not what happened at all. This is something that's
TSN got that wrong, and I tried to correct TSN on Facebook for that. I wrote about the game.
And how could TSN get it wrong? Because Frank Saravelli was right there. You know, that's crazy to me that they got that wrong. I mean, he was literally 3 seats away from me and you.
I don't know how, and I didn't even look to see who wrote the article. Once it had in the headline Ed Snyder bracelet, I just immediately corrected it. But
they ordered these for Game 2 as well. Did you see someone just tweet out? I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Chuck Gormley did.
Right. So tweet out that he found the boxes that said bracelets for Game 2. You know, in the Wells Fargo Center. This has been planned for months, and it's a cool concept. The problem is, you know, you need to probably hardwire these into the chairs.
Right.
Because otherwise you're not. If there's something that people can throw, they're going to throw them. If they're upset, if the Flyers won last night, none of these would have been thrown on the ice.
It's going to have to be something like that. I wrote about the bigger picture on Sportsology, but I'll talk about the game. So the first thing is that, you know, we all pretty much agreed Mike Richards can't play anymore, but the one thing he could do is annoy people, and Wayne Simmons just took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. And twice he was off the ice, and that was just an absolute win for the Capitals because, like, that's a bonus. If they could get Wayne Simmons off the ice for any amount of time and take him out of offensive situations when he is out there, they win. So
yeah, they do. And you're right. And he has become, and you said it very well, I think, in between periods, that you probably wrote this in your story as well, he's become Sean Avery, or he's become, you know, Matthew Barnaby. He's become this is what he's become, and he is very good at that role.
He is. And,
you know, and that is not a bad role for the Capitals to have, because the Capitals haven't, I mean, to be honest, the Caps haven't really had that, and it's been a problem with them over the past.
Right.
But I mean, this is not symptomatic of why the Flyers are down 3-0. But we mentioned this at the end of the regular season in that game in Detroit when Simmons took himself off the ice by punching Abdelkader, you know, knocking his helmet off late in the third period, and you when you're one of the better players on the team, when you're one of the more effective offensive players, and you're having trouble generating offense, you don't let yourself getting taken off by a fourth liner who can't play anymore. And that's what he did. He like Russ said, he played right into Richards' hands, and that, you know, that's a terrible thing.
And we can't talk about fatigue and injuries because everybody has fatigue and injuries. So, but we could talk about coaching a little bit. And the Flyers, when they were winning, they weren't putting the other team on the power play. They just weren't.
Right.
Other teams were getting like one power play game.
Yeah.
And now, you know, they're going back to what they were at, where they were at maybe the third week of the season when Hackstall was a new coach, and it's all kinds of penalties. And part of that is because they're faster, and part of that is because they're bigger, and part of that is because they're frustrated. And the frustrated part is what I think the coach has to sort of rein in and say, hey, look, we're down. The series isn't over. We were once down 0-3 to the Boston Bruins, and this organization came back and won. Nobody's expecting them to come back and win, but you just have to win the next one, right? And so for them, they can't put them on the power play. They just can't. It's really simple like that, and yet who knows if that message will get through.
Yeah, and you know what, Ack, they also need, and I'm hesitant to criticize, especially after I defended him after Game 2 after the bad goal. But they needed Steve Mason to make a big save at a certain point. I mean, that goal that Ovechkin scored in the second period to make it 2-1 and just inside the post, it was a long shot. It was like Russ said, it was a rifle. But you know what? He's got to stop it. And then the
fact is, normally, Mike, you're absolutely right, because normally his glove is in perfect position to stop that. But the problem is, you know, his glove was down in tight with him as opposed to being out where it normally is, and that's the whole difference when you watch the shot. You know, we watched it 1,000 times because it was actually not too far from being offsides. That was the first thing we thought about. But you know, of all the
one that glanced off his glove to me was more egregious than that one.
I think they were equally egregious because you do have to make that save on Ovechkin that far out, and you have to. And the fact is, he was actually in position to make the save, and normally he's set with his glove there. This time his glove wasn't there, so that's why it goes in.
I mean, Gudas is the one who allegedly had him covered and didn't, and so Gudas deserves some blame too. And here's the other thing, though. Again, this is what Kevin Allen used to talk about. Like, if Wayne Gretzky were to score 4 goals in this era, we'd be like, well, you know, the first one wasn't that great, and the third one was really kind of easy.
Right.
And nobody ever did that. And so now we're doing that to Steve Mason, yet I think we're forgetting after that Ovechkin shot, he made like 2 brilliant saves right after that. If you were going to worry if it got in his head or not, it didn't. It's just the Capitals are this good. If you change the Flyers' goaltending, it's simply to just change it up. But I'm not going to put it on Mason. I'm really not.
Well, I get the sense, I mean, there was an interesting point during this season when Neuwirth was playing very well and had actually won the starting spot away from Mason. Mm-hmm. And, you know, then he got hurt, and, you know, Mason took it the rest of the way. But people forget that Neuwirth did win the starting job away and made some saves and won some games for the Flyers that you know, Mason may not have won, who knows, but they were wins that he won. I mean, he played unbelievable in Chicago. He played against the Capitals unbelievably. Mm-hmm. He made a save, we all remember, with like 1 second left against the Minnesota Wild that literally got the Flyers in the playoffs when you look back at it, because if that goal goes in, the Flyers don't get 2 points out of that win. Anything's possible, right? So the reality is that Haxtell doesn't mind he didn't mind giving Neuwirth the starting job, because some people were telling me, that okay, well, he's not the guy you're paying the most money to and all. He's on a 2-year contract, and yeah, but Haxtell didn't seem to care about that earlier in the season. So I'm really curious now if Neuwirth is healthy enough to play. Like I get the sense that he's not. And I get this.
I know, and that's what I've been saying to you all along. I felt like if he was, he probably would be getting the nod at this point. Here's the other thing too. With Sean Couturier out, like for again, all the people that kind of wonder what he's worth to the organization, right. It's everything, because that's one less guy you have to worry about when he's out there, maybe two less guys at times, because he could be that shutdown guy. And without him in there, everybody moves up, and guys like Matt Reed really get exposed. Like Matt Reed has done nothing. Nobody writes about him because there's no expectation anymore. But he's a guy that once scored like 24 goals, right? And now if I had to look back and see when the last time Matt Reed scored was, it'll take me a little while.
He used to score nice goals too. He used to use his speed. He used to and yeah, you're right. Now Matt Reed has had Matt Reed's demise came with him being on a line with R.J. Umberger for a year, basically. It really felt like that took the wind out of his sails. And there was the Couturier-Reed-Umberger line, which was just horrible, absolutely horrible. It was awful. And Couturier, barely survived it as well. He had a terrible year last year too, but this year came back, and since he wasn't playing as much with that line, he was much better. But Matt Reed never really recovered this year. He never really bounced back to where he was, and he's on the second power play unit, and he's killing penalties, and he's out there all the time. And he gets a lot of ice time for a player that sort of is completely non-impactful. Well, it's at the end of the day, like what I said before, what Flyers the solace Flyers fans have to take out of making the playoffs is what I said in the very beginning. That making the playoffs is like giving these guys an extra season of experience. Like it's like giving, it's when you get to play in the playoffs. The difference between like making the playoffs and getting like a 1% chance at Austin Matthews is that 10 of your rookies on your team, or these young guys on your team playing in the playoffs, they'll come back next year like they're kind of entering their third year, not their second year.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a big thing, And Gossivier is getting schooled right now, but we've learned how quickly he can learn. So he's going to learn from this. He's going to get better.
Well, Washington really has to be the only thing that Washington has to be concerned with right now, because they're up 3-0, they've dominated the series, is what's going to happen? How many injuries are they going to have before the end of this series? Because now Orpik, got his clock cleaned with that hit against the boards. He was out, not out cold, but he didn't know where he was when he got up. And they say day to day, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's out for a while because he's had a concussion history. Orlov apparently was okay after the Belmar hit, but he supposedly he was damaged more by one of the things thrown from the crowd than he was the hit. But now this morning, Holtby collided with a teammate in practice and left the ice favoring his left leg. We don't know the extent of this, if this is going to be something that hampers him for Game 4. If all of a sudden, Philip Grubauer is in goal instead of Holtby.
I'm doing my show. What's up?
Hold up.
What do you need?
Yeah. If all of a sudden Grubauer is in net instead of Holtby, then that's something that that's a bit of an equalizer. That not to say that the Caps won't go ahead and win the series, but they need Holtby if they're going to go far in this playoffs.
I muted you, Russ. They do need Holtby, but I was told by somebody relatively close that this is not a serious thing. That and I don't know whether
they tell us otherwise though. Really.
Right. No, they wouldn't, and not that's not saying that Holtby might not play. I mean, maybe if you're the Caps, you just go cautiously and don't play him in Game 4. I mean, you are up 3-0. You never want to give a team, a win, but at the same time, Holtby, if you're planning on having a long run and you want to have Holtby healthy for it, why not give him off till Friday or beyond? If they can win without him, and then you get a whole week probably to give him rest. So.
Now, did you know that the Caps have never been up 3-0 in a series?
Yeah.
In a playoff series?
The Predators have never been up 2-0, which is even crazier.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on from this, just to tie in this game with the game at MSG tonight, according to Chris Johnston from Sportsnet, the Rangers will be distributing light-up bracelets to the fans at MSG tonight. So we could have a repeat of this in New York if there's a bad call against somebody on the Rangers.
There's definitely a chance for it. Like, I'm not going to say there's no chance. There's a chance. Every time you do something like that at a hockey game, not a concert, there's a chance. But it's a shame that we have to say that, but
Yeah,
we
no,
do.
I mean the reality is people are drinking and they're frustrated and things happen and you know and everybody thinks it's funny and all this crap. So yeah, but I thought you were going to more go in the lines of the fact that it looks like Matt Murray might be playing tonight.
Well,
Yeah,
this is the funny thing. Zatkoff left the ice first at the morning skate.
Right.
Murray skated, Jerry skated, Fleury was not seen at all. This is Sullivan. Sullivan seems to be
Sullivan's playing deception. He learned that from Tortorella.
exactly. This is just pulling the string. We don't know nobody knows who's starting in goal. I mean, it could be Zatkoff again, but it could be Murray. It could be Jerry. Who knows?
I want to know how hard Murray went out there in practice. That's what I don't know. And if this is the kind of time you want to be at a morning skate, because if a guy's coming back from a concussion and he's going hard, then he's ready. I mean, the bottom line is that
it sounds like Murray's ready. That's what it sounds like to me.
And if he's ready, he's playing. If he's ready, he's playing. There's no question about it. Like to me, Murray, I think Murray was every bit as good as Fleury this year. So I mean, that's a really
for a small window he was. You're right.
Yeah, and he in some ways a better goalie for the playoffs than Marc-Andre Fleury. And then just hear me out on this because he's the kind of guy who's very relaxed in there. He's very calm, sort of giving. It's kind of what's happening with what Martin Jones is giving the Sharks. Like this whole concept of really relaxed and confident goaltending that's just solid,
Yeah,
I also think there's less of a scouting report on Murray than any of the goalies in the playoffs because he only played a limited amount of games, and really you can't use junior footage because the defensemen in front of him are different, and so many things changed on the Penguins that what could you really use for Matt Murray if you're going to try and break him down? A couple of games? I mean, that's really all you have to go by.
Right.
Yeah, there's a thinner scouting book on Murray than there is on Fleury, but you're talking about a kid who's 22 years old, and I'm sure even though he has that calm demeanor, there's going to be the internal machinations going on with him about playing in a playoff game. So I think they sort of counterbalance each other. And plus, Russ, Vigneault is playing the similar type games as well. McDonough was in practice today. Girardi was in practice today. They called up Rafael Diaz yesterday. So there's also some chicanery going on there as well.
Here's the thing, though. The only difference with the chicanery, and Vigneault definitely plays into it, is that we all know McDonough is visiting a specialist today.
Specialist, yeah.
And so that's the difference is if he gets any kind of positive report from the specialist, we know he's playing. I mean, basically, last year we knew at Game 7 when he was testing out that foot, it was bad, and he still played. Like, this guy's going to play if there's any possibility of him playing, and the fact that he's seeing a specialist is a little bit of a tip-off.
Yeah. They'll probably just fit him with some sort of glove or something like that, just a protective thing. So, yeah, I'd be shocked if he didn't play at some point during the series. Maybe even game. It could be tonight, could be Game 4.
That's if you remember at the beginning, that's what I figured. 3 or 4 is when he'd get back. It's never going to be fully healed, but
right.
They're doing a good job, the trainers and doctors over there at the Rangers, because Kevin Kline literally never missed a game with a broken finger, and that's pretty good. If you think about it, in this day and age, that's pretty good.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on with that, but why don't we touch on the Dallas-Minnesota game because Patrick Sharp put the Stars up 2-0 very early. I think it was in the first 5 minutes of the first period, and being up 2-0, everybody assumed that was the death knell for the Wild, and surprisingly, the Wild came back and won. I think it was 5-3. Now, Russ, I didn't give the Wild any chance in this series, and I probably still don't. And it's probably going to be in 5, maybe at worst 6. The one thing that I'm concerned with, and we mentioned it yesterday, is that Dallas brought back Sagan in Game 2, and then he's out for Game 3. And you don't know if that was just a reoccurrence of an injury. But now they give up 5 goals. Lettinen did not have a good game. Minnesota got some emotional response, and now there's a possibility of them going to Niemi in game 4. So it's like, Minnesota now has life. I don't think a lot of life, but they do have some life.
I do want to point out that Rusted Chicken did pick Minnesota, and so this could be his calling card. The thing is, here's the thing. There's a couple of things. The defense definitely let the Stars down. From what I saw on, I didn't get to see the whole game, obviously, but the defense is a little soft and spongy. We know that. And the goaltending, once the goaltending gets a little bit suspect there, they definitely have problems. Minnesota definitely showed life. Dubnyk showed that he could really be a top goalie, and so they're getting confidence from him. Maybe Dallas lost a little confidence knowing that Seguin can't come back, because I'm really doubting whether he'll be back at all. And so maybe the emotional tie to this has changed a little bit to at least give Minnesota a chance. And that's what I think sort of has happened here.
I think so too. I mean, and I actually, watching, there's a lot of heart and a lot of young speed on the Wild that was really impressive in that game. And I'm definitely more of an Niemi fan than a Lehtinen fan. So I mean, I thought there's no reason that you wouldn't bring in Niemi. You got him to play in the playoffs, so that's what kind of baffles me. But it just seemed like the Stars just weren't into playing last night. It was really like there is something about.
He scored a couple quickies, but
yeah. I mean, I did a story years ago, and I got to do the research on this. There's something very real about the fact that when teams win playoff games too easily, they tend to lose the next playoff game. It's like you don't see a blowout followed by another blowout. Like in general in hockey, and this was, if there's any other hope for Flyers fans on Wednesday, there's this, I guess, as well, because you have like the whole concept of there's a natural letdown when you win too easily. And I think the Stars won very easily in Dallas, and I think that last night they just didn't. And then they got out to 2-0 lead, and again things were going. It was all very easy, and then but you have to keep playing in the NHL. You just do, and they stop playing.
I will say sometimes, because if you go back to '94 when the Rangers played the Islanders and Ron Hextall was net, go look at the scores.
Yeah, that's true. This is fun. I got to show you guys this. This is pretty funny. This was just sent to me as well. This is the Flyers promotional giveaway for tomorrow night. It's a rock. It says be in your seats by 7 p.m. to be an integral part of our pregame show. A big rock is attached to every seat. Please do not throw this big rock onto the ice. Thanks in advance. Credit here. This is Dan Levy, who did this at Dan Levy Thinks. That's pretty hilarious. Anyway, just throwing it out there.
And the one thing now we don't have any kind of update, and probably won't get an update on Zach Parise, but Minnesota did this without Parise in the lineup. Yeah, without Vanek in the lineup. It was mostly guys like you had Pominville with 2 goals, Mikko Koivu. I mean, the veteran remnants of their core stepped up last night and did get Minnesota back into the series. So Dallas can't overlook this team. I mean, they have them at a disadvantage right now. If it goes back to Dallas 2-2, then there could be a little bit of panic with the Stars, because I mean, again, their defense is not good, and they basically had a goaltending rotation for most of the year. They gave Lehtinen the first 3 games. Now they may go to Niemi. If they don't go to Niemi and they end up 2-2, then they're probably going to go to Niemi in Game 5. So, Lindy Ruff's got some decisions in front of him.
No, he does, and Lindy Ruff is always one of. If there is a weakness in Lindy Ruff, I've always kind of felt it's how he handles his goalies.
That's why I think they might stay with Lehtinen, because in Buffalo he killed Ryan Miller in the second half of the season when they need to make the playoffs. He played him so much that by the time they got to the playoffs, he was exhausted. They had backups like Ty Conklin and Jocelyn Thibault, who barely got in the game in the second half of the year.
Right. No, you're right.
The only problem with Lehtinen is he's never won the big series. Like obviously in Atlanta, he didn't really have much chance. They only made the playoffs like once, right?
Right.
But in the AHL, he did make it through to the Calder Cup. But then he was really outclassed by Niittymaki, of all people, in the Calder Cup when he played against the Phantoms, and he was the real big shot #1 goalie. Yeah. And so I kind of wonder if that's just something that maybe is just a part of his game, where he can only get you so far.
And Niemi has been outstanding in the playoffs, as we saw. He won a Stanley Cup, and people never give him enough credit for that Stanley Cup, because he was very good in that playoffs. Right. And then people always say, you always hear the Blackhawks won without a goalie. They really didn't. I mean, Niemi won a series against the San Jose Sharks that year that he won. I mean, he was the winner. He was the reason they won that series.
Well, Russ, it's a commentary on Lehtinen that Jim Nill had to go out this year and sign Niemi for a little under $5 million when he had a $5+ million goaltender in Lehtinen. It's not exactly a stamp of approval or a boost of confidence that you say, okay, we don't trust you enough, or we don't trust in your health enough to go out and basically sign a 1B because you're not good enough of a 1A in goal.
Right. No, that's true. Let's get on to the
let's get on to that San Jose LA series, right?
Which I couldn't be happier about the result of. As I before.
Yeah, because that's what you want.
That's exactly what you want. Because here's the thing, and I tweeted it out, and I know it's crazy, but you do not want to get up 3-0 on the Kings. The bottom line is, if you get up 3-0 on the Kings, all they're going to be talking about today is, you're not going to sweep the King. You're not. The Kings are going to come back on you again, and that would be a disastrous thing for the Sharks that they could not come back from, were they to lose another 3-0 series lead to the Kings. So
wait, so you'd rather them lose
yes,
a
absolutely, 100%
overtime game where they blew power play chances?
Yes, no questions about it. They were better. They were better than the Kings last night for most of the game. At the end of the day, you're not going to sweep the Kings. So
they were tied for most of the game. How could they be better?
They outshot them. They outchanced them.
That means nothing.
That doesn't mean nothing when you outchance a team. Okay, so they were. I mean, Quick was very good at times. He made some really big saves. But here's the thing.
He was better than very good.
Yeah,
he was
great, and that's part of the Kings' thing but the Kings' offense just isn't really there. I mean, it really is. It really is not.
They play 35 minutes. It doesn't matter about their offense. They play 35 minutes.
I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy. No, but here's my thing. Okay, they're not going to sweep. It's going to go back to San Jose.
Howling at you.
Going back to LA 3-1, no matter how you slice it, right? So wouldn't you rather go back to LA 3-1, having won Game 4?
No. I would if I was San Jose. I would have rather swept them and not have to go back to LA.
Well, that's a given, but you're not going to sweep the Kings. The Kings are a good team. You're not going to sweep the Kings. So you have to realize that you're going to go back 3. The best you're going to do is go back 3-1. You could go back 2-2, but you want to win the game. You want to have. A big part of this Sharks collapse last time is once the Kings won one game, the Sharks couldn't win another game. So the idea here is that now that they can win, if they can let the Kings win this game 3, and then go out there and they can win Game 4.
This is a game that San Jose should have won. San Jose had numerous power play opportunities, especially in the third period. Late in the third period, they had 2 back-to-back power plays. When the second one, when Tanner Pearson shot it over the glass.
Sorry, 1 second, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, okay. No, don't worry. We'll go on.
That's fine.
But LA's penalty killing, and the funny thing was, Russ, for most of the game, their penalty killing unit was Kopitar, Doughty, Muzzin, and I think Carter was the other 4. They used their top players on the penalty kill.
Yeah, they're playing those guys too much. Carter and Kopitar are getting played too much. It's definitely a problem. Again, Kopitar, you can't rely on his defense this much if you want to get some offense out of him, and they're sort of sucking the offense out of those guys.
Now, I mean, that might be a symptom of the fact that Sutter knew that it was a massively big game, and if they lost it, they were probably going to lose the series. So he was going to go with his best.
Right.
If he does that in Game 4, then you're right. Then I think he's using Kopitar. I mean, but Kopitar scored a big goal late in the first period to tie up the game after Thornton had scored 30 seconds into the first period. I mean, I think I was on the phone with you when Thornton scored, and I said, "Gee, here we go again, 1-0 San Jose," and it was the first shift. But now, again, those little things in the back of the San Jose Sharks' head that is telling them, "Uh-oh." It's like, here's that team. Here's that team that came back from 3-0. We're up 2-0, and now they're coming back again. So I'm not saying that San Jose is done. They're not. They're in the best one of the best positions they could be in. But the team that came back on them a couple years ago and could come back on them again.
Oh, there's no question that they could come back on them again. I agree completely. I just don't think that. I'm just being facetious to a degree. But at the other point, I'm also sitting there and saying, that there is there is a momentum thing, and I did not. I mean, the solace of this is like the Sharks up 3-0 again would worry me. As strange as it sounds, and just from a fan's perspective, the Sharks up. I muted your rest. The Sharks up 3-0 would worry me because they would be, they would. And then if the Kings win Game 4 in this kind of fashion in overtime, then you start to question everything. So to me, maybe this gives the Sharks a chance to bounce back, now, and you know, and it's just a series. It's not like they're going to blow a big lead in a series. It's just a series. To me, that's
you have an unproven goalie in there who's now in a real pressure spot that he hasn't been in before.
It's true. No, it's all true. And you know, and Quick is a phenomenal goalie, and is going to be is going to play phenomenally, and he is keeping them in games, no question about it. The defense is not looking great, in my opinion. They're relying a lot on scoring of you know, rather bizarre players when you look at who's scored in this series for them so far. So.
Well, one encouraging thing for the Kings is that Marian Gaborik, who came back in Game 2 and didn't look that great, he looked really good last night, and they need him in terms of being a secondary offensive source. He had a couple opportunities to score last night. Yeah, go on. He had a couple opportunities to score. This world is going to the dogs, Russ.
Really?
Jeez. Caninus interruptus.
Yeah.
But for the Kings going forward, I think, you know, first of all, they have to get Martinez back. If he's anywhere close to being able to play, they got to get him back in the lineup, because there were a lot of situations last night where Muzzin and Doughty were playing, and you could see that the trust level in guys like Luke Shen and Jamie McBain are not there. And I mean, they were playing Scuderi in key situations, and this guy barely could play on the bottom pairing with Pittsburgh and with Chicago. So I mean, they're in deep trouble on defense.
That's the Sutter way, though. He really shortens the pairings and shortens the bench.
You're right.
That is the way he coaches, and we can't really say anything because he's won. I mean, so at some point that might be a bad thing. I mean, Lucic's head wasn't in that game. I saw one horrible turnover.
Oh, well, Lucic was the first goal of the game. The way Lucic just looks at Thornton as Thornton's circling and gets away from him.
But he made up for it by setting up Kopitar on the tying goal. But he also took a stupid penalty in the third period. So I don't think he's earning himself any dollars in free agency with the way he's played so far.
Guaranteed extensions are not quite coming yet. All right, so let's get into tonight's games. We have a few. We already talked a little bit about the Rangers and Penguins. But there's 4 games tonight. It's a big night in hockey. We also have the.
One little message here for Anaheim and Nashville.
Yep.
According to Elliot Friedman, Freddie Anderson will be starting for the Ducks, which we could see coming a mile away.
You got to give Boudreau credit for having guts. You know, like he does. I mean, this is. You know, it's funny. I wrote my article about
goalie into the Wolves. He did, and
yeah,
you could have predicted this would happen.
You could have, and he does this kind of thing. And I mean, it's funny as we sit here today. And I was writing my Montreal Canadiens preview this morning, and I'm writing. You know, here's Michel Therrien has a more secure job next year than Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. And Bruce Boudreau is sitting there, and he's making this move, and he's, and I think it's a, you know, it's not Anderson's. They're really pretty much, they're both good goalies. I mean, Anderson's not, and they're both #1 goalies in the NHL. So
they lose in the first round. It's 50-50 whether Boudreau gets fired before the start of next season.
Yeah.
No, I think so too. I think I do. I think you know, we could be looking at Bruce Boudreau as an Ottawa Senator, you know, coach, if he gets knocked in the first round. And I don't think that's fair necessarily, but man, oh man, you know.
Maybe somebody should wait a year before they hire Boudreau, just to, you know, let it breathe a little.
Yeah, how long did it take between Washington? Was it 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Or less than a week that he got gobbled up?
Yeah, it was about a week, I think. Yeah. So
there's other guys out there, but we'll see. I mean, look, Anaheim, again, they needed some sort of shakeup. I guess they're going to do it in net, but somehow you have to wake up their big guns, and if you don't, they're going to be in trouble. I mean, this is a team that I don't know how they go scoreless for so long and how their offense just dies the way it does with the players they have. I guess it's age. I don't know what else to attribute it to.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like confidence. You know, it feels like confidence to me, and I don't know. It's hard to imagine, but you know, to say the Predators are a more confident playoff team than anyone is.
And they are.
But they are a more confident team than, I mean, you know, the Preds have never been out of the second round of the playoffs. They've never. They've never been up 2-0 in a series like they are now. So,
and I mean, Nashville's going to have the advantage tonight because they will be able to put out Weber and Fisher against Getzlaf and Perry, so they'll be able to match up defensively, and Laviolette will probably try to keep Kessler away from the Johansson line. So if they can do that, they have a distinct advantage over Anaheim. I'm not saying Anaheim can't go into Nashville and win the game, but I mean that's a big advantage. The Predators were able to overcome that in Anaheim, but they have an advantage going back home to Nashville.
The worst thing for Anaheim is they're playing an offensive-minded coach, and so they're going to have to score to win this. You know, they're going to have to score more than they usually do to win this series because the other coach is going to let his guys try and work up the offense because he knows he has great defensive players, and that's something where Boudreau's got to match him. Somehow he's got to match that.
Well, here's the thing, and this was brought up by Jeff Merrick on Sportsnet this afternoon when I was watching it. He and this is a really good point. That the Ducks won a lot of these games, a lot of these 1-0, 2-1 games down the stretch, and they've been playing at a high level for a long time. They've had to play at a high level for a long time because of their start. In order to get back, they had to really play at a high level. But they weren't playing against other teams who were also playing at a high level until now. And now, and that I think is a really good point. That that now they're sitting there and they're going against the Predators, who are also now everybody's in survival mode, not just them. Mm-hmm. And that's a big difference, And I think that what you're seeing is a Predators team that has. Maybe it's not as publicized as the Ducks issues, but the Predators have had also their playoff problems, and they haven't gone as far as they should have gone in the playoffs based on how the regular seasons they had. So these are two teams that are in sort of the same boat that way, and right now one just looks a lot more up for it, and the fact is, these might be the two best defenses in the NHL. They're playing each other, so.
I think the bonus for Nashville was when you get Craig Smith and Colin Wilson back into the flow. That's huge for them because those are guys that have been really inconsistent at times.
Yeah. But Craig Smith has been a pretty good playoff performer, and Colin Wilson. And both these guys have been pretty good playoff performers in their career. But you're right. In the regular season, they've had big struggles. For sure.
I'll tell you one thing though about Nashville, and they got away with it in Game 2. James Neal has got to stop his extracurricular stuff. The stick underneath the mask of John Gibson. Now, apparently it was in retaliation to something that I think Kessler did to Pekka Rinne. But that especially in a playoff situation, it's not the first offense that gets caught; it's the retaliation.
Right.
So they're up 2-0. They have a chance to take a stranglehold on the series if they played their cards right. And a stupid penalty like that could turn the series. So Neal's got to keep himself in check.
You're right. I mean, so what do we think? What are we thinking about Chicago, St. Louis tonight? This is that's the other big one that we're going to talk about. I mean, we also have the Islanders. We have a lot going on tonight, but let's just get through these fast. Chicago's thoughts?
I think you see that. I mean, obviously, Chicago needs to win this to tie it up to go back to St. Louis 2-2. If St. Louis can somehow win 2 at the United Center, obviously they would have a stranglehold on the series. That's not exactly insightful, but I mean, the Blackhawks with Keith back. Crawford I thought he had a pretty good game in game 3. This is. This is where that core group that has won Stanley Cups comes to the forefront. And this is why
you could include Andrew Ladd back in that core group.
Right, and this is why I picked Chicago in the series. This is the game where Chicago needs to win and has the capability to win the game. I think the most important thing, Russ, is they got to get Patrick Kane producing at a high level. Tarasenko, in that 1-to-1 matchup between him and Kane, Tarasenko has won. He's been almost unstoppable, whereas Kane has been, he took the big double minor in the third period in Game 3 that cost them the game. He's got to step it up. I don't know if that means maybe moving him off the line with Panarin and
I wouldn't do it yet because I thought Panarin's played well. I wouldn't do that yet.
Right, but
I really thought Ladd's been hitting everything that moves, and that's been a big factor for them and a nice addition. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I think you're going to see Quenneville do what Sutter's doing. He's going to rely on the guys that he's going to rely on because he wants this win. Like, this is the game Chicago has to win now.
Right, and his Quenneville's tendency in that instance is to put Kane with Taves. make it a matchup that is almost impossible for anybody to counter. And he's done that in many instances before. So I think they may go that direction. And if it doesn't work, then he can switch Kane back to the Panarin line and have two offensive lines. But I don't know how St. Louis matches up Kane and Taves. If they can shut them both down, then they're probably going to win, but we'll see.
I do want to say officially Brooks Orpik is out for Game 4. He didn't practice today.
All right. This is Panda. Panda the dog.
Shut up, Panda.
No relation to Rusted Chicken. Panda the dog feels like she needs to defend the house whenever people are mowing the lawn outside. So she's even though she's the smallest dog, but she's a good dog. She's just doing her dogly duty. I'm putting her off duty. Hang out here just for a bit, okay? All right. So And finally, Florida and the Islanders, right? So, this. I do want to say one thing about that. You brought up something about the stranglehold concept. Does 3-1 feel like a big deal anymore? Like it doesn't. No. It's funny how 3-1 is sort of like when we were kids. Like 3-1 was like a crazy thing. Like no one came back from 3-1.
Now that was before the Red Sox, beat the Yankees. That
right.
Was
Remember we would hear this kind of thing all the time.
Flyers beat the Bruins. Like we've had these massive upsets in the last 20 years to sort of change our thinking.
No, nothing's impossible to come back from now. Now that we've had 2-3-0 comebacks in the last 6 years.
A ton of 3-1s though. I mean, like a ton of 3-1 comebacks in the last.
3-1s used to be that way, Mike. It used to be like, it's pretty much.
Like the Islanders Capitals 3-1 was always talked about. Oh, the Islanders came back on the Capitals from 3-1 or whatever. Capitals have lost more 3-1 series now than they could count. They could throw a chicken at,
I remember. I think, this is the old Norris division battles, but I remember Toronto going up on Detroit 3-1. I think it was 87 or 88. They had beaten Chicago, upset Chicago in the first round. Were up 3-1 after Mike Allison had scored an overtime goal in Game 4, and Detroit came back. I think it was Jacques Demere's Detroit Red Wings came back and won the next 3, and won in 7 games. So back then it wasn't even impossible, but now. Chicago came back against Detroit the one year. That was the year that I think Seabrook went into the penalty box and calmed Jonathan Taves down because he was losing it. It's not impossible, but let's just say I would rather be 2-2 than 3-1.
All right, so let's talk about the Islander game for a little bit. I mean, Bryce played really well. He's played better than I think we all expected that he would.
Yeah.
I think the coaching, Capuano, has risen to the occasion. He's put Pulock in there. He's getting production out of him. He's getting way better production out of Tavares now. John Tavares is now looking like a superstar. He's got Strome on the board. That's big. Now that all these contributions are happening, the Islanders are really dangerous. I still think Florida's going to win this in 7, though. It's going to be an up and down battle with great game, not great game with Luongo, and Jágr hasn't done anything yet in the series. Like imagine if Jágr were to do something. So I think we're still going to see something here, and I think it's going to be a long series. I know Islander fans are probably thinking it's not going to be a long series now, but I still think it's going to be.
Yeah, I side with that because, first of all, I didn't expect Greiss to play this well. I still think that Florida has the goaltending advantage in this series, although Luongo didn't play great in Game 1. I thought he played very good in Game 2. In Game 3, I don't think he was at fault for the loss. But, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Riley Smith, they would be down 3-0. They need Barkov, Huberdeau, and especially Jágr, maybe even on the power play, but 5-on-5 as well to generate offense. If they're held scoreless or held in check and Tavares continues to score the way he has been, then, the Islanders will win the series. But I just think that there's more to Florida than meets the eye right now.
Yeah, and Ekblad's getting back into it now. And I mean, he had a goal taken away. He still could be a big factor too.
I agree with that one too, as well. I think this is the Islanders series now. I do. I really do. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. And I picked Florida in the series, but I'm really just watching this. It feels like the Islanders. Let's go to the lottery simulator.
Well, let me just add, while you're pulling that up, maybe there was some change in luck because they did change the SUV from a white SUV to a silver SUV at the Barclays Center. So maybe there's some change of luck there.
Don't they know by now never to change anything?
I don't know.
I kind of wonder at the end of the season though, will somebody get to walk off with that lucky SUV? Like on a game show. I'm waiting for that to happen.
I thought you were going to say lucky SOB, but okay.
John Scott just got his car today from the All-Star team, by the way. All right, anyway, here we go. Pick the winner for tonight, or for tonight's edition of the NHL Lottery Simulator. The winner is the Montreal Canadiens. Oh. There you have it. So I mean,
you want the result that Toronto fans would hate the most. There you have it.
Can you imagine this? What I wrote about today is that this team, more than anything else, needs star power. They would get, they have lots of good prospects from what I hear, but no real big-time prospects. They
can afford to trade PK Subban if they draft Austin Matthews.
Nah, never going to trade PK. Next up, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the sloppy second to the Montreal Canadiens.
Now, this would be the most interesting way for the Leafs. We're pretty sure, if it goes fourth, they're going to go Tkachuk. But if it goes second or third, this is where you don't really know who the Leafs are taking. And this is where, to me, the most intrigue is. 1 and 4, I'm pretty sure. 2 and 3, I don't know.
Right. I actually think, Russ, that 3, they would still take Tkachuk.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
At 2?
At 2, at 2, they think they're taking one of Puyarvi or Line.
I think either way, they're taking one of the Finns at 2 or 3.
You're right.
I'm up as third today, so there you have your draft lottery simulator 4.
And Jarmo gets his Finn.
Jarmo going to not take a Finn, so he doesn't have to.
He gets so offended. If you notice this, Russ, he gets so offended when you talked about the Finns with him. He's like, I don't just pick Finn. He's told me this so many times. I don't just pick Finns. I'm like, wait, who's your best prospect? Oh, he's a Finn. I'm like, oh, wait a second. What are you talking about? I don't just take Finns.
But just picture this at the draft. The minute he takes one of those guys, like he would take, Puyarvi there, let's say, that would be the first question he would be asked, and he'll get mad.
Immediately. You're a Finnish coach. You're taking a Finnish goalie. All right, so here we go. Ready? Panda's going to talk us out today. Panda's going to tell us that without the buzz, Without the buzz, it's just hockey. Talk to you soon. Panda, come on. Click off the stop broadcast.